atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
This town needs an enema.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die.
Gotham, this is your liberation.
My mother warned me about getting into cars with strange men.
This isn't a car.
20 years in Gotham. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way? He has the power to wipe out the entire human race.
Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. I'm Batman.
Let the games begin.
Welcome to the Batman on Film podcast. Here are your hosts, Bill, Jett, Ramey, and Rick Shue.
Hey now, welcome to the Batman on Film podcast. I am the host and founder of Batman on Film, Bill, Jett, Ramey. With me today is not Rick Shue. Rick came down last night for our Suicide Squad watch party, and he's probably somewhere on I-45 north heading back to Dallas. But I do have with me today, as always, two guys are usually always here. Ryan. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. I just had some loaf for breakfast. It had some Pescetti in it.
You know, do you have any toenails or any of that stuff?
I left that stuff out of the recipe.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right, Justin, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well.
All right, guys. We're going to talk about Suicide Squad, which came out this weekend. I actually saw it last weekend in New York at I went to the press junket. We can talk a little bit about that later, but I dropped my review on Tuesday, and I liked it. I thought it was okay. It was good. I had a good time watching it. I gave it a B. But I'm going to throw some numbers at you real quick. Currently, well, the cinema score came out. It is a B+. Probably would have been better if it got an A- because Bs are not, I know it sounds crazy, but Bs aren't considered very good scores on Cinema Score.
Huh.
A B+ is probably okay, but that would be higher than Batman v Superman got, which was just a straight B. It usually, that's an indicator of, it helps indicate what kind of legs the film will have. If it's an A- and higher, film tends to have better legs than anything lower than that. Rotten Tomatoes, guys.
Yes.
Did you sign the petition?
Yeah, I did. I'm just joking.
Okay.
Just joking.
Yeah, whatever about that. Rotten Tomatoes, it currently sits at 26%.
Lower than BVS.
Lower than BVS, and that would be a rotten score.
Wow.
Its audience, overall audience on Rotten Tomatoes is 73%, which is, that's tends to be a low score as well. You think about the Dark Knight trilogy films, they were all in the 90s.
Right.
Higher
than BVS.
Yes. IMDb, Internet Movie Database, its score is, by its audience, is a 71% positive, which is probably average to below average. And I don't know, I've checked into the box office. It hasn't been updated on Box Office Mojo this morning, but it did take in $65.1 million domestically. That would be Friday, including the Thursday screenings. They just roll that over into Friday's total. Worldwide, and of course, the full weekend is not out yet. It probably will come out while we're on the podcast, doing the podcast this morning. It's setting some records at the box office.
It'll probably be take the record for the highest August opening domestic.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And it'll be, which is currently Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's going to beat that this weekend. I was did a little bit more digging this morning. BoxOfficeGuru.com is predicting a big drop Saturday.
Yeah.
And the Saturday numbers haven't come out yet. A bigger drop than they expected. I think they wanted to. The estimate was like 145 million domestic. They're lowering it down. I've seen it go down into the 130 millions, but it perhaps could be more around the 120 million mark. So we'll see. We'll see this morning what the initial box office tally is. But I mean, let's just talk about the movie. Again, we have the third entry into the DCEU: Man of Steel, BVS, now Suicide Squad. All three have been reviewed poorly, and it seems to get reviewed as time goes by. Each film outdoes the other or tops the other on bad reviews, and they're very contentious among fans as well. So, Justin, tell us about your viewing experience. Where did you see it? When did you see it? Who did you see it with? And what did you think? Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I saw it on Thursday night at about 6:30. Saw it at the local theater. Usually see all my movies at. And I went with my wife and then my best friend Kelly and his wife, Christy. And we all loved it. The crowd we were with loved it. But actually, my wife didn't like it as much as she liked BVS more. She doesn't like Will Smith, so that's her thing. But yeah, I had a good time. I really was great at avoiding all the reviews. I didn't even read yours, Bill. I didn't read your review till afterwards. But I did see on Twitter there was a little bit of negative buzz going, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So I had that same feeling of, man, I hope this is good when I go into it. And once it started, I just kind of let the ride go, and I had a good time. I really liked it. My favorite parts of the whole thing were, I won't get into all of the plot details yet, but I just had a good time watching the movie. It was fun. It was no way the best film ever. I have some thoughts I'll share later about that too. But overall, had a good time watching the movie. I laughed. I clapped. There was times where I was like, okay, I get where some people are having issues with it, but not the wave of reviews that have come in. I still kind of scratching my head on that, but I had a good time, and I think that's all that matters in the end, for a viewing experience. Did you like it? Yes. Did I have a good time? Yes. And I'm going to see it again. Yeah.
Did you have a better time viewing this than you did Batman v Superman the first time?
Yeah, I would say yes, because I think the energy in the theater felt really excited and pumped. With Batman vs Superman, I was already aware of the reviews, and I read stuff, and I just had more trepidation then. And but yeah, I had fun. This was like a popcorn machine of a movie for me.
Okay, I got you. I would agree with that. All right, Ryan, what's your story, dude?
Well, in our last podcast, I said, man, I'm going to go dark because that's what I want to do. And I didn't do that because it was, and I kept telling myself, even follow me on Twitter, it's a barrage of I should have stayed off the internet. I only read one review, which of course was yours, Bill. But it was hard to avoid all the reaction stuff coming out. There was all the negativity, and then before the film was released, we started getting these articles all of a sudden that was like, oh, there's production problems, and there was competing cuts, and David Ayer had said something like, well, I made the movie for the fans and stuff like that. And once I read that quote, I was like, oh no, that's no. So I was pretty worried, but as soon as the film started, all that just kind of washed away, and I was able to ignore it and just watch the movie. I have seen the film 3 times.
Wow.
I saw it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday and Friday, I saw it in IMAX 3D, and Saturday yesterday, I saw it in like a big, just giant screen with Dolby Atmos sound, which was pretty great. And each time the audience, in the 2 IMAX screenings at least, they were pretty full. The third one was like a 10 o'clock showing at a different theater, so it wasn't quite as full. But for the most part, the audience really liked it and really responded to it. Throughout all 3 viewings, all of the spots where there were jokes or cool moments, the audience really responded to it. You could really tell everybody was having a really good time. Compared to BVS, I just felt like the audience was just very quiet the entire time and just felt like a big emotional gut punch. And by the end, when you're walking out, you don't really hear talking about it. But every time, as I'm walking into the theater, a bunch of people are walking out, talking about and buzzing about Suicide Squad. And when I'm in the theater, people are doing the same thing. So it was definitely a fun experience. But as terms of the film overall, it's not like a slam dunk, but there's certainly not enough bad things in there for it to be getting the the kind of critical discord it's getting.
Yeah. I've seen it twice. I saw it, like I said, I saw it in New York last Saturday, not yesterday, a week ago Saturday. And that was at a theater in Manhattan. And I'm surprised they picked the theater they showed it in. It was just a very plain, no frills theater. It was the screen was smaller. It was with about half the crowd were critics and people that were invited to see it by Warner Brothers, probably for reviewing purposes, TV, print, whatever. And then the other half, they had just regular audience members, probably people who'd won tickets from somewhere. And the response was pretty good. They laughed when they were supposed to laugh. There was some clapping throughout, a little clapping at the end. And, of course, yesterday I saw it in IMAX with Rick and my wife, my son, one of the guys I coach with, and two guys I coach with, and then some of their friends. But for me, it was really cool to see. And I did like the IMAX. It was IMAX 2D. I'm not a big fan of 3D. What did the 3D? Was the 3D okay, Ryan?
Oh, yeah, I thought the 3D was pretty cool.
And
I forgot to mention this, too. My wife is out of town, but she really wanted to see Suicide Squad. So I got her a ticket, and she saw it out of town at just a regular 3D screening. She wasn't going to see it in 3D, but that was the one that was closest to the time she could go. So she went to 3D, and she said that the 3D was actually really good. She usually hates 3D, but she said it was very helpful, and especially on the moments where you get the big title cards for the characters. She said all that stuff really popped out and really helped sell the comic bookiness of some of that stuff, and she was really impressed by it. And in terms of the film itself, she really liked it, really, really liked it, and liked all the characters, and the only thing she didn't like, which was shared criticism among a lot of people, was the villain and the plot, but that didn't really matter because everything else was just so much fun. And she absolutely hated BVS. I showed her the ultimate cut, and she just did not like it at all. But she was still excited about Suicide Squad and really liked it too.
Okay, good. My wife thought it was okay. I asked her again this morning before I came on what I was going to talk about what she thought, and she said it was good. It's not a film I'd want to see over and over and over again, and I tend to agree with that. Rick's wife wasn't a big fan of it. Didn't like Leto's Joker. We can talk more about that later. The other guy, all the guys I was with, they all liked it. I mean, I for a frame of reference, they like the Expendables and stuff like that. So this kind of right up their alley, I would say. For me, when I saw Batman v Superman the first time, when I got back to the hotel in Los Angeles, and then my wife said, "What do you think?" I said, "I don't think I like this movie."
Yeah. And
it took me about 2 or 3 screenings of it just to get to where I could say it was okay. That's where I've stayed there. I posted this on Twitter. And I relate to Kevin Smith, who said, I read an article. He says he keeps watching it over and over again because he thinks that at some point he's gonna fall in love with it. And I'm kind of like that too. I kind of watch it. I watched it. I was working out Thursday or yesterday. One day, and I was on the treadmill running, and I put it in and watched it. While I was running because I'm there. I want to watch it again and again because I was disappointed I didn't love that movie. I don't think I'm ever going to get there, but I guess I keep trying. But anyway,
that must have been a long workout.
Yeah, well, I got about an hour. I got the first hour in at least. So
you're pulling tires like Batman.
Yeah, absolutely, and. I got a big
mallet thing,
sledgehammer, and I'm doing all that stuff. And this movie, I didn't like it as much the second time I saw it, and I don't know if that's just me or maybe it was after I did read all the reviews after that. I don't know, but the stuff that I didn't like about it the first time was kind of more jarring to me the second time. I think the villain is awful to me. It was just awful. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else they could have done, but I really didn't care for the main villain. And you know what? go ahead and give you a warning. We're going to talk spoilers. I mean, there's just no way we can
Yeah.
discuss this film properly without spoilers. So if you're listening and you haven't seen the film yet, go watch it and come back, or carry on. We're going to talk. The villain's Enchantress, and I don't know, guys, what do you think? It was just very underwhelming. To me, I'll say this. What made it a positive for me is I thought the cast was very good. Mm-hmm. And it was clear that they had chemistry and they liked each other and they were having a good time making the film. And I think that comes across, and that's part of why the movie was fun to watch. But, there's some issues with it. What did you think, Justin, about the Enchantress being the main villain?
Yeah, you know what? I think if the Enchantress was the main villain without her brother, I think that's the part that really turned me off was the brother character. I was like, I have no clue who that guy is. At least I went in knowing who the Enchantress was through like Justice League Dark and stuff, and it just felt that whole part is the part I had problem with. It just felt like the end of Ghostbusters mixed with the end of the first Ninja Turtles movie from the 90s, where everyone takes a turn trying to fight this person to get knocked down. The only part that made me like it was just how some of the characters reacted in that time. Like, okay, that feels like Harley Quinn, or that, that's Deadshot. Mm-hmm. That's, but yeah, super underwhelming. I was thinking like, who would have been a better like name villain at the end? Because I think that's what they should have done. They should have reached in the pockets. I don't know if they're like, well, we got to save this villain for this or this for that. It's just that part, I didn't get why they went with her and the convoluted brother story. So yeah, that was a little disappointing to me, underwhelming, but it was what it was. Big laser in the sky.
Yeah.
Which didn't seem to have any point, by the way. Like, why was the laser going all the way up in the sky? Like, that whole thing. Like, I didn't.
All right, Ryan, what'd you think about Enchantress and the whole finale and everything?
Yeah, I agree. Like, after 3 viewings, that's definitely like the biggest problem of the movie. It's not necessarily that the plot is pretty linear and straightforward. It's just that the villain's just kind of whatever. I know that they combined a couple of arcs from some of the older Suicide Squad comics to get that Enchantress and brother kind of storyline and everything, but yeah, it just didn't really work. And making that big machine to like destroy the world and everything, that did not really. I don't think they sold that very well. They had like a couple of shots of a computer monitor showing like, oh, it's blowing up like a ship, aircraft carrier, it's blowing up some satellites, and oh, the whole world is in peril. And that just didn't really. I don't think they sold that very well, and it just didn't really work. It just didn't have the kind of gravity. Like, I just wish it was something else, like anything else. You could have anything else.
Yeah, I've been trying to think, could you have done something more realistic where it was, like someone was going to, nuke the Earth? I mean, like almost a James Bond type of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a screenwriter, but I just was not impressed by the whole Enchantress thing and the ending. Like I said, it was just that the cast really saved this film to me. Yeah. I mean, the cast was so good that it saved the film. And let's talk about since we are Batman on film, let's talk about some of the Batman aspects of it. Let's start off with Batman. Batman is in it. Was he in it as much as you thought he would be, or about that's what you expected?
He was in it more. He was in it more than I thought he would be, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Especially when you count in the mid-credit scene at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome just to see him pop up like that, isn't it? And one of the things that we heard in BVS, when things like the nightmare scene would be criticized, the argument would be, oh, it's just like a comic book where just something random comes out of nowhere and you don't know what it is. And I'm like, that's not good storytelling. But for this, for Suicide Squad, it literally is like a comic book, and there's a cool flashback or a cool scene, and it just enhances the story. And it really helps the world building of the DCEU, I think, just to see Batman come up the way he did. I love seeing his interaction with Deadshot. The only thing that would have been even cooler is if Deadshot would have been in like full Deadshot armor or something like that. But for what they did, those shots were cool. Just like seeing them walk through the alleyway, and then Batman just kind of like swoops down like completely silently out of frame. That was so cool. and seeing his interaction with Harley Quinn was hilarious when he like punches her in the face. Like every single screening, the theater just erupts with laughter. They just love that moment. Or I wish he could have had like interaction with the Joker, but that it's okay because I think they're kind of probably saving it. And it's totally, and you know what? It's totally Joker. The fact that car crashes into the water and the Joker's just not there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Times in the comics is the Joker like falling into a, water of some sort, and he's just gone. So I thought that was awesome. Honestly, it's very comic book accurate.
Yeah, good point.
And seeing and the mid credit scene was really cool. So I really enjoyed seeing Batman in the film, and I'm trying to look at it through the lens of this is Batman after BVS. And you can even look at some story threads with that, like when he catches Deadshot, this Batman has bat cuffs and not explosives, and so I thought that was pretty cool.
All right, Justin, what do you think about the Batman stuff?
Oh man, when he first showed up in that scene, going after Deadshot, that was a huge part for me because I didn't expect him to show up right there, and so he just kind of glided down. Yeah, it was awesome. I want to see that part again because I think I missed a part of it because I got so excited. I told my wife, I was like, Batman. And
yeah.
She's like, yeah, okay. But I really was surprised. I was glad. I was kind of wondering if they had more shots of Batman. Can we spoil the other cameo?
Yeah.
Okay, so when the Flash showed up, that was rad. I was really excited about that. I was wondering though if they originally filmed like Batman stopping Boomerang, because they originally said that in the beginning that all the Suicide Squad people were put in there by Batman at some point.
I read a story that said they had always planned to use the Flash and they just didn't shoot it till Justice League because they knew they could leverage that at the very end of production.
Oh, gotcha.
I do wonder if there's anything with Batman and Killer Croc because they mention it.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been cool.
And he is obviously a very Batman villain, and some of the backstory for Killer Croc is that he was like a rising gangster, and he was actually trying to overthrow a lot of the organized crime in Gotham, so he hopefully overtake him and stuff. And he was running out of the Gotham by the Bat. That would have been awesome to see, like Batman. Yeah. We do see Batman swimming, but it would have been awesome to see like Batman like in Killer Croc fighting or something like that.
Oh, that would have been cool. Yeah, so yeah, Batman was cool. I thought I got just enough Batman to satisfy me in this movie.
I agree with that. And
I didn't want to get spoiled with Batman.
I did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't know. I was like, I didn't know the Flash. I tried to keep myself pretty clean going in. I had no idea the Flash was in it, and so that was kind of cool to see that, especially with with Captain Boomerang and that whole deal. And then I did like, even though we knew the scene that they used it in the promotion, and there were some spy pictures, last year of the him on top of the purple Joker car. That whole scene was cool too. And Ryan mentioned it, but when he punched her in the face, that was hilarious. And so yeah, I enjoyed it. I wasn't a huge fan of the mid credits scene with Bruce Wayne and Amanda Waller, just because it kind of it was very Marvel-y. Is that a word I can even use? Marvel-y?
Marvelous.
Marvel-ish.
Marvel.
Because it's very much, clearly to help set up Justice League. So. Well,
it's clearly not necessary because he already has the info from Lex about those exact same people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but what I was taking from it was maybe could also mean like if they have any future plans for more Suicide Squad, if that could, because wouldn't that be awesome to see more Justice League people just pop up in a Suicide Squad sequel to take?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which I have a few theories about that week, which we can get into later.
Okay, so let's let's move on from Batman to Batman characters. We've talked a lot about Deadshot. We mentioned Harley and Killer Croc and the Joker. So let's just the elephant in the room is Leto's Joker. I liked it. I thought he did a good job. Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight is still the top portrayal of the Joker in my book, even after this film. And I think some of that maybe have to do with he's a peripheral character in this movie. He's not, he's kind of in the background most of the time. And And so I thought he did that's a tough job.
Yeah.
To follow Heath Ledger with a completely different version of the Joker. What it's been only 8 years since the last cinematic portrayal of the Joker, and it's iconic. It's already an iconic portrayal of the Joker on film, and so he was completely different. You know, he's a gangster Joker. He's got kind of a hip hop vibe to him, but he was still very much the Joker to me. That was the Joker. I mean, he's not he's not an agent of chaos or wanted to cause anarchy like the Joker did in The Dark Knight. He's clearly a mobster and a gang leader and so forth, but still to me he was the Joker. So Justin, Jared Leto's Joker, what do you think, dude?
Yeah, I really enjoyed him. I thought he was a different take on the Joker, and I liked it. I think that, with the Joker, he always redefines himself. So I almost hope that we don't see this version of the Joker again. Like, I hope that he takes on a different persona the next time we see him. Maybe, he's less like the hip hop underground gangster guy, and maybe he takes on a different, way of portraying himself. But yeah, it was fun. I didn't have any complaints, just that I wish there was a little more of them. I was reading an article yesterday about how they cut a lot of his stuff out, and there was a scene that they had in the trailer of him with his face kind of like blown up looking.
Yeah,
you guys know what I'm talking about? And I never saw that scene in the movie. I don't know if that was
apparently that is like there's a whole sequence where he shows back up at the end after the helicopter blows up, where he tries to get Harley back again, I think.
Yeah, and I remember a scene they filmed with Harley and Joker somewhere like on a street, and
with
them in an argument.
Harley had a gun on his head too.
Yeah, and that scene's not there. So I kind of left like thinking, oh man, there's some scenes I didn't have in here, and I wish I would have seen them. But I liked him. I liked his laugh. I just thought he was super creepy. He was scary to me in a different way. Like Ledger's Joker was scary to me, but Leto's was just like there's something about it that it was unsettling with me, and it was weird. And I'm not like a psychologist or anything. That I was like trying to get like what's going on with this guy? What's his angle? And I think that's cool about the Joker, trying to figure him out, like figuring out what the heck's going on with this guy. And then I liked having his heart. He had a heart for Harley. Like, it wasn't as abusive as I've seen it portrayed in like comics. It actually seemed like he loved her and he cared for her, and he would do anything for her. So, but at the same time, he did physically abuse her and throw her in a vat of acid and all that stuff. But I like Leto's Joker. I can just ramble on about it. I thought it was good. I look forward to next time he shows up.
Did his aesthetic bother you as much as you thought it was going to?
No, not. I was over that after a couple weeks. When I first saw his picture, I was like, what are you doing? But then I thought, you know what? And I don't think this like version of him will show up again. I think next time he'll just be like, oh, I got everything removed. He'll revamp himself, or not, whatever. I just feel like that kind of worked for this Suicide Squad movie, and then he can change himself. I almost thought when he came back from the explosion that everything was going to be gone. When he took his like mask off with the SWAT team, I was like, are his tattoos gone? But I saw the J and stuff, so I thought
that would have been interesting if he pulls the thing off and he's different.
Yeah, like just maybe chemicals erased everything. I don't know, but I did watch that video that he's in this video for Rick Ross and Skrillex for the Purple Lamborghini song, and he's just he looks really good in this video. He's just walking around basically in a black tux in a club and on a boat. And he does everything that's like in a generic rap video. He does. He's just kind of hanging out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought he actually looked his best in that video, though. If you're
very cool. I love that smile on it, tattoo on his hand. He puts in front of his face. It's just.
Yeah, it was so weird.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious, but it's creepy as hell too.
Oh, that made the tattoo aesthetic worth doing.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, what's your thoughts on the Joker, man?
I like the Joker. He was cool. Overall, he didn't make as much of an impression on me in the film because they just didn't give him enough to do. And that might have something to do with some of the scenes they cut out. Maybe some of those scenes framed him and Harley's relationship in a different light, and they tried to change how that flows and plays in the film, maybe. So I understand that, but I really just wish, with Batman, I feel like we had the right amount. Joker could have used a little bit more, I think, or at least more integration into the story, and more with Harley, and more with just more of him. And that's not because he was so good. I wish he was. I just needed more to form a complete opinion on his performance. If that makes sense. I thought that the aesthetic did work in the film, but after watching it, I was thinking, well, do they really need to use it? I mean, was it that big of a issue to have him that way? But it was cool, and it did fit in with the gangster vibe, and I absolutely love that, laughing, chattering teeth tattoo, because that's just those are great moments, and they use it more than once. It's really cool. And I like seeing his relationship with Harley Quinn. That was very interesting. I asked my wife what she thought, and she thought that it wasn't so much that he unconditionally loves Harley, but it's more like he is so infatuated with her, with the fact that she will do anything for him and she can handle him, and he just is very enamored by that, which I thought was a good take on it also. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a tall order to try to do something different and so soon after the Dark Knight trilogy, and I thought it's definitely a good start, and I just want to see more of him. And you're right, they can totally change him or not the next time we see him, and I hope we do see him again.
Well, I think we will see him again.
Yeah.
Clearly, they're setting up the I bet it's the Batman film with Ben Affleck that he's going to show up in next. So we talked a lot about Harley, Margot Robbie. Did she steal the show like we all expected she was going to? Because I thought she was my wife said she was awesome. That was her favorite part of the movie was Harley Quinn. So Justin, were you a fan of Miss Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn?
Yeah, I mean, I think she was exactly what I expected her to be. Side note, there were so many girls dressed up as Harley Quinn at the theater. Like, not like in jester costumes, but like there was a girl wearing a Argyle sweater, black and red, a lot of girls with pink there was a lot of girls there in Harley gear. And even afterwards, it was like, girl party, let's go out and watch this movie, which was cool.
Yeah, I read that it was tracking, it was doing very well with women and like young kids, not children, but I guess teenage, high school age.
Yeah,
under 18. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I liked her. I liked her voice. I liked her personality. She felt like Harley Quinn to me, and it was cool. Regardless of what people thought about the costume or whatever, which they did actually have her in the costume in that one part.
Yeah,
that was cool.
That was like straight Alex Ross.
Yeah, it was like that cover.
That painting, yeah.
And so, yeah, man, she was good. I can't pick it apart. I guess if I could, but I'm not going to. I choose not to. I thought she was good. I liked her. Satisfied.
I did too. Yeah. The only issue I had is her Harley voice seemed to
fluctuate.
Sometimes, yeah, it was like really Harley, like from the animated series with that, with that accent. That sometimes, Harley Quinn, glad to meet ya, and then it was sometimes it was just generic American accent. So
but,
it felt like she had the accent from New York at sometimes. Is what I thought.
Yeah.
Now, I do feel like there was some inconsistency there, but I also thought that maybe in some parts they were trying to play the whole. She was slipping back into Harleen Quinzel for a little bit and dropping the kind of zany voice also.
Mm-hmm. Could be, yeah. Could be. So go ahead, Ryan. Talk more about Harley.
I thought she was great. She's definitely a bright spot in all the cast and, with all the members of the Suicide Squad. They used her very well. I definitely like seeing all of the story with her, between her and Batman, and her origin story with the Joker. And that's just a very different and interesting way that they kind of revamped her origin. And they didn't really do it. There were elements that were great, but, they fit Mad Love into 20 minutes, and you really get like all of the ins and outs of the relationship. But here, it's it's almost too quick to have too much of an impact for me. Where she's just like, oh, I'm in Arkham Asylum. Oh, here, I'll break you out, and I'll do anything for you and stuff. But that scene itself was really good, where she turns into Harley Quinn, and just she jumps off the catwalk and into the vat, and the look on Joker's face before he jumps in after her is just that's excellent. That's absolutely excellent, because it's one of those Joker things, which is almost like The Killing Joke, where you see the Joker act kind of non-Joker-y, like he's kind of dropping his Joker for just a moment, a brief moment. And that kind of stuff is chilling and very interesting to me. And to see it done on film is really cool. Let me ask you guys this. Did you catch the Easter egg about Harley Quinn during her, intro panel? I texted you this, Bill. Okay.
Okay, I was looking for it yesterday. It's so fast.
It is, yeah. It's like half a second or less.
Yeah.
And I think that's very intentional.
Did she kill Robin?
It said, I believe it said she was an accomplice to the murder of Robin.
What? What was that?
So at the beginning of the film, they have those panels that are like Deadshot. Here's all his stats and all that.
Yeah.
For Harley Quinn's at the bottom left of the screen, for literally half a second or less, it flashes on the screen and goes away. It says accomplice to the murder of Robin.
What? Wow.
Yeah. So that I just keep thinking about that. You know, we've heard some of the supposed instances of how that Robin died, after BBS and what the filmmakers were thinking, but to see something like that confirmed in a film is really interesting, and it just makes me wonder even more, like if she had a hand in the murder of Robin, what kind of extra layers does that give for scenes where people like Batman is saving her,
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's bound to be going to be addressed at some point.
Yeah, it's just
Joker,
another
Harley.
Yeah, for them to put that there means that they've kind of figured out what happened and what's going to happen in future films, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the costume is in the Batcave in BBS, so yeah, that's something that's going to come up again.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did Batman kiss Harley Quinn, or was he giving her mouth to mouth? Because I thought he was giving her mouth to mouth, but then at the same time turned into kind of a kiss, and then I don't know.
He was giving her mouth to mouth, and I think maybe she was even faking it the whole time and just messing with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Batman was definitely not kissing Harley Quinn.
Yeah, because I read that.
Very
people
obvious.
thought that, and I was like, I didn't get that from it at all. But then,
those same people also are confused why Harley has a phone from the Joker in the movie.
I mean,
which that is ridiculous.
It didn't bother me about the Joker emoji or any of that stuff. So I mean,
I love that.
I thought it was funny myself.
Yeah, no, people think that there's nothing in the movie that shows how she got the phone. She just randomly has the phone, and I'm like, no, there's a whole plot revolving around that. How do you miss that?
Oh man, I didn't even read anything like that. Man, some people will pick.
Oh, I know. I'm like, did you watch the movie at all? Yeah.
We're gonna have to get into that. We'll get into that right at the end. Let's just finish up with the rest of the cast.
Right.
I thought Viola Davis was awesome as Amanda Waller.
Oh, she was great.
I mean, she was almost like, if you really wanted to go this way, you could say she was the main villain of the damn thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, and she was a sociopathic, ruthless, you know what. So I thought she was great. Jai Courtney didn't disappoint me. I thought Boomerang was hilarious. Like I wrote in my review, he's a funny guy, but he's that kind of funny where you're not trying to be funny. You're just a quirky dude that's funny with the way you are. I liked him. So Jay Hernandez I thought was great as El Diablo.
Mm-hmm.
That whole story was gave the film some some heart, some substance, I thought. And if I had the weak link to me was Enchantress. June Moon thing, and but again, when I was at the press junket last weekend, and I was right in front of the cast. They came out and they were all together. You could tell that they had a chemistry, and like I said in the review, it translated into the actual film itself. You could tell that they had a chemistry and they liked each other. Will Smith he went and he shook every a good 10, 12 people's hands and just came up and said, hey, how you doing? Which was a good move, going and introduce yourself and to the critics and so forth. But apparently didn't do any good because he got viewed poorly. But I thought that was a good deal. And so that's just overall, I guess. I think it's a solid B. If I could, probably after the second screening, I may knock it down to a B-. But I will say I had a better time watching this than I did Batman v Superman at the theater. It didn't get better for me the second time. Whereas Batman v Superman, I went from not liking it to being okay with it upon additional viewings. I want to see more of these characters. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing Slipknot. That blew your mind. They got rid of him pretty damn quick, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I was just waiting. Yeah, I was just waiting for his time to go.
Here's what was funny about it. At the press conference, that dude, after you see the film and, they get rid of him quickly, he's not in the film that much at all. That dude talked more than anybody at the press conference.
That's pretty funny.
It's like he wouldn't stop talking. So, whatever. So, anyway.
I love that scene because it showed how conniving Boomerang is. Like, cause it was like, okay, let me try and get you blowed up. So I know that.
Let me make sure that this is a thing. And that's right out of the comics, too. There's a comic book that they pulled that from, too.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
All right. That's my overall thing. I want to, I'd love to see a sequel to Suicide Squad. I'd love to see these characters. And, I wouldn't mind seeing Deadshot in a Batman film.
Deadshot was great. Will Smith, an
he was
absolute
good.
asset for this film. It was so good. And his brand of humor really matched with the film. I thought he...
Yeah, the way they wrote Deadshot in his film matched his acting skill set perfectly. I mean, it was that was great casting. And I know I've seen some people, he was Big Willie and all this and, all that stuff and went Big Willie mode. But look here, that guy can act.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. So he's not that like that in all of his films. And I thought it was good. I mean, Deadshot, I've never been really excited about Deadshot, even in the comics. He's kind of a nondescript Batman villain.
That's the best term in nondescript,
But they made something more of him, and he is an assassin. He kills people. And I thought, the whole deal at the end with his daughter, and they're talking about math and angles. And,
that was funny.
It was great.
That was pretty well done. So overall, I want to see more of them. I hope that the film is successful enough that we will see another go of Suicide Squad. I think it's there if they want to do it, and I think we'll see Harley and the Joker in the Batman film down the line. So that's where I stand now, and we'll get into the reaction because it's not good. I mean, I don't think the reaction for the film, just the perception that the DCEU has right now, it's just not good. Things are not very good, but we can get into that in a second. So overall, Ryan, what would be how would you sum up Suicide Squad?
Well, I'm going to ask you real quick, Bill.
Okay.
Was there a big difference between the way they handled the press conference of Suicide Squad versus BVS? Because I remember when you were talking about BVS, you were saying how awkward and weird some of that was.
They were very open with it. Like I said, I mean, if I brought my wife with me to New York, she could have went and saw the film with me. That didn't happen when she went out to Los Angeles with me for BVS. I couldn't. There was no plus ones. I couldn't bring her to see the film. I had to sign NDA before I saw BVS. None of that stuff. This was more like it was what I was used to back, covering Man of Steel and the Nolan film. So I think they were pretty confident in this film. I just with BVS, the vibe I got is they were not confident in that film at all. And clearly, in retrospect, I can see why. I think they're a little taken aback by the negative reviews that it got. But I don't. We'll get into that in a minute. I don't want to. I'm just still. We got fans talking about conspiracy theories and bias and all this stuff again. So which is nonsense.
Oh man.
But well, good. It's good to know that was different.
Yes, I thought they were very open about the movie completely. All right, so Justin, go ahead, sum up or just your final thoughts or whatever you want to say about Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I really loved Suicide Squad. I do want to see a sequel because I want to see other characters brought in. I think the only thing that made me kind of is a small thing. I just really wanted Croc to shine more because I thought he could have been one of those characters where like a Groot, like someone who you walk away like, oh, Croc was great. He just didn't have enough lines. I liked him being involved in kind of the ending, with the bomb and stuff. But yeah, I was hoping a little more from Croc. But overall, I had a good time. Like the DC universe got bigger for me, and that's the pure joy I got from it. I was like, man, I saw so many different parts of the DC universe open up, and I thought it was a good way of doing that. I wish the villain at the end was different. I'm like, man, they could have used anyone. They could have used Eclipso or somebody like any villain besides what they did would have been better. But I still love the movie. Like, in my head, I give it a B.
Let's talk about how this film affects the DCEU. Like I said, the cinema score is a B+, which is not bad, but it's probably not what they wanted as far as legs is concerned. The Rotten Tomatoes score, 26%. What? You've read all the controversy about Rotten Tomatoes and stuff. I just can't say it enough to people listening, is that there's no conspiracy against DC films by Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, for Pete's sake, Warner Brothers is part owner of Rotten Tomatoes. You know? It should be the other way around if there's any kind of shenanigans going on.
Well, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't. That's what I tweeted you the other day. They don't write the reviews. They
exactly
just aggregate it.
Yes, exactly. I think some people are actually confused that Rotten Tomatoes decides that, oh, this film is 20%. It sucks, so we're going to give it a 26%. That's not how it works. Yeah. So,
but I did see someone that has written reviews for them before, and they said they gave something a 2.5 and was.
Yeah, that was a good article. It was a guy from Kansas City Star.
Yeah,
they wrote that.
So that was interesting.
But he also, to be fair, he pointed out that this happens to Marvel films as well.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not just DC.
It's not just DC. I mean, that was part of the deal, that there probably needs to be a little bit more. One film can be a 2.5 and be declared rotten, and another film is a 2.5 score by a reviewer and it's declared fresh. Yeah. There has to be some way where it's more definitive.
Yeah. It could depend on the content of the review as well, you know.
That's true.
Yeah.
They just need a better way of having a more accurate representation of what they are posting, I think. Because that's always been kind of the broken thing about Rotten Tomatoes. Mm-hmm. And some people argue that, it's not a true average and this and that, but the fact of the matter is, a lot of the mainstream does look at Rotten Tomatoes now, and you can't ignore it.
I mean, I think it's pretty dadgum close. I mean, it's not perfect,
right?
But it's a pretty good reflection of what critics think about the film, and and you can't have it both ways. You can't sit here and say Rotten Tomatoes it sucks and they're biased and this and that. Well, in 2005 and 2008 and 2012, they weren't complaining about it. They were saying, look at the score for The Dark Knight Rises. Look at the score for The Dark Knight. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
And then the other argument is, well, when I bring that up, they'll go, well, that was not DCEU films. Well, it doesn't matter. It's still DC. I mean, a lot of the mainstream, and probably, quite frankly, a lot of these reviewers don't even factor in that the Dark Knight trilogy is not in the same universe as, they don't think it that way. That's pretty clear that Ben Affleck is not Christian Bale and it's a different Batman, but you're not thinking about these separate universes and multiverses and whatever that we're all used to.
Yeah. And
it's just, they know this is, and heck, a lot of people don't even know, I'd say for the mainstream, whether it's Marvel or DC, it's just superhero movie, So
I do wish that some of the critics would kind of cut the crap with the hyperbole war. Like some of the reviews would say things like, "This is the most Suicide Squad is the most disappointing film of all time," and all these clickbait headlines and stuff. I wish they would just be a little bit better with that kind of crap too.
Oh yeah, I think some of the reviews have been over the top, and I think
it's just
people
embarrassing.
They want to get into they want the attention, So, but I will say that, the score is pretty indicative of what the critics thought. I liked it better than a lot of critics. I gave it a positive review, so I'm going to stand by it. Just to let y'all know, the Box Office Mojo has updated their estimate for the weekend of Suicide Squad, and they say on the estimate it's going to make $135.1 million. Yep. Domestically this weekend, a foreign take of $132 million, and worldwide around $267 million, 105, et cetera, et cetera. So good opening weekend for the film.
Oh yeah.
Now the thing is, and we'll get to talk about next week, what kind of legs it has, what kind of drop is it going to have. We know it's going to drop from this weekend to next, but if it doesn't drop like BVS does, I think they're going to be okay. Here's what we need to look for. It needs to make $600 million worldwide. They'll be happy with that. If $600 million worldwide and above, the Suicide Squad will be considered a success by Warner Brothers, at least at the box office. So that's what we should be looking for the next several weeks. Is That's the line of demarcation we need to get to. And I want the film to succeed because if it doesn't, then I think, we saw what happened. We saw the course correction and the panic and so forth about over the DCEU after BBS. But let me ask you guys this. What did you think about the Hollywood Reporter story that there were 2 cuts of this film? There was a studio cut and there was a David Ayer cut. And what we end up getting was like a compromise between the two. As someone who prefers the filmmaker-driven approach, I don't like when the studio starts mixing their own cuts of a film over the filmmaker. So, Justin, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, whether it's true or not, it felt like there's a lot of inconsistencies in like the tone. So it doesn't seem too far-fetched considering what happened with Batman vs. Superman. So if that's the case, I hope Warner Brothers learns its lesson right now and just lets Patty Jenkins, hey, let her do what she did. Don't jump in there and mess it up, because that's what people are ripping on. I think is kind of the editing and the cohesiveness of the story. And when you start cutting things up and changing things around, like I read that they had the trailer house that cut that second trailer. Put a piece together.
Yeah.
So that if you're going to say you're filmmaker driven, then be filmmaker driven and trust your filmmakers, because I don't know, like if I was David Ayer, if I wanted to do another film for Warner Brothers, if that's the experience he went through, and this is all, I don't know if it's true or, there's probably a little bit of truth to it. So just let filmmakers be filmmakers and trust your brand. Your people want to see these characters. And people want to see a good director, take a stab at it. So, you trust Nolan, trust these other guys too.
I was about to say, I think I wrote somewhere, Twitter or or Facebook, Batman on Film page, this shit wouldn't be going on with a Chris Nolan film.
Oh, yeah.
Period.
And it's not going to go on with Ben Affleck either.
No, it absolutely. That's absolutely. So if you're going to give those guys, and I know, Chris and Ben Affleck are more acclaimed filmmakers than David Ayer, but still, you hired this guy to write and direct this film. Let him get the cut he wanted to put out.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, I think there's a little bit, like you said, just probably a little bit of both, a little truth, a little exaggeration in the story, but makes me wonder if we'll end up getting a director's cut of this one.
Ultimate cut.
Yeah. So Ryan, your thoughts on that?
I definitely think that's some of this stuff has happened just based on the fact that we have that article and we have like all these. We all know there's all these cut scenes from the film too, and even you see the trailer. Can't wait to show you my toys. That line's gone too. There's just so much that I feel like is probably not there, and I totally agree. Like, if you're gonna be, you can't have your cake and eat it too, guys. If you're gonna be filmmaker driven, let the damn filmmaker make his film, for God's sake. But that article, I think, says something along the lines of, well, after they dated the film, they dated the film before they even had a director and all this, and they couldn't really, it would be so bad if they changed the date and all that kind of stuff, so they just had to keep going with it, and that's why that's one reason why they had to do reshoots, because the film was in trouble and they couldn't bring it all together. But I'm like, would it have been so bad to delay it if the filmmaker needed that extra time to hone the script and hone the stuff? Because
probably. Looking back, they probably shouldn't have set dates for all these films.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like, is it so bad that Suicide Squad had a date and they couldn't not take it back? Because how many times did the BVS date change? Like at least twice. Mm-hmm. They pushed it back a year and then pushed it back and then moved the date again. They kept moving the date on that thing, so they should have given them more time if he needed it.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about, especially next weekend. I really want to see this. I want to see what the box office does between this weekend and next weekend. Yeah. That's going to tell us a lot right there.
Yep.
And I may get
BVS.
Yeah, I may even get another screening in before then. So, all right, guys, I think that's going to do it for this week. We'll have a lot more to talk about next weekend. And Rick will be back, and I don't think Rick liked Suicide Squad all that much. He was trying to last night after we went to a bar afterwards, and seemed like he was trying to talk himself into liking it. So
he read all the reviews and spoiled himself and crap.
Oh, I know. Yeah. He was having an episode last week about it.
Like, come on, Rick, just don't do that. And he's like,
he works himself up into a into a frenzy over this stuff sometimes. So anyway, all right, that's gonna do it for this week. Pay attention to the box office between now and next Sunday, because I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to talk about, because definitely that's when we're gonna be able to see how it may affect the DCEU going forward. All right, so for Ryan and Justin, I'm Bill, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the podcast via iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spreaker, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Follow Jett on Twitter at Batman on Film and on the BOF Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Jett.BatmanOnFilm. Email Jett via Jett@Batman-on-Film.com. Follow Rick on Twitter at ShoeRick and on Facebook at Facebook.com/BOFShoe. For Jett, Rick, the BOF Roundtablers, Justin, and Ryan, I'm announcer Rachel. Thank you and good night.